Good morning. Welcome to the Sunday live stream. Today is Sunday, November 23rd. How's it going? I don't think that I actually introduced myself yesterday when I started. My name is Angela. I am a software engineer and front-end developer in St. Paul, Minnesota. And on this channel, we practice HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. We're all vanilla all the time. It's not a conspiracy. Don't overthink it. It's just about practicing. I'm not here to tell people that they shouldn't use frameworks or libraries. I just want people to practice more and get a grasp on the basics. That's it. That's all I'm looking for. Monique Robinson is here. Good morning, Monique. Triggering Nightbot, making sure that Nightbot is still working. Sometimes we have to wake Nightbot up in the chat. I didn't use Nightbot for the longest time because I thought it was paid, and then I found out that it was free and I couldn't install it fast enough. I love it. So, although it does sort of spank people for obscure reasons, we've noticed, but we do mostly like it. So yes, Monique is triggering practice. We practice with vanilla CSS and vanilla JavaScript. No libraries, no frameworks. We just really want to drive home some of the basics. Go Elmo is here, formerly Malik Robinson, formerly Go Elmo Go. Monique and Malik, not related, just a coincidence. YouTube is doing the username, not the display name. I think that's the best way to describe it in the chat. That I noticed this a couple of weeks ago in other streams that I watch, where the chat only shows up as a username now, not a display name. I don't know why YouTube it seems arbitrary that they make changes like that, and I don't think there's anything I can do to change it. So it is what it is. They are our mods in the chat today. So if you're new here, welcome. If you haven't liked the video yet, would you please be so kind as to do so? Helps me, helps the algorithm, helps me push this out to people who might be interested in this type of content and might want to hang out with us. I'm here pretty much every Saturday and Sunday, just practicing. I have to tell you, it doesn't seem like it would really add up to that much. I'm here for roughly, we'll say 4 hours every weekend. You wouldn't think that you could get that much done. Here's the thing. Think about this, and if you're like, I don't have time to practice, I've got this activity, I've got this commitment, I've got a job, I've got kids, I've got a partner, I've got parents, whatever. Can you set aside 4 hours a week, 2 hours, 2 days a week, dedicated to practice? Because that's what I've done. And I'm looking back at the last year of what I've accomplished just in these live streams alone. And it's an incredible amount of work. Think of it like this. Think of it like pebbles on the scale. Every little pebble adds up over time. Pebbles on a scale. Individually, it doesn't seem like that much, but they add up, and after a year, I promise you, you will have 5, 6, 7, or if you're like me and you do roughly one project a month, 10, 12 projects completed by the end of the year. How much bigger will your GitHub be? Your commit grid on GitHub be? How many more repositories will you have in GitHub? How will you have refined your own process for writing CSS and HTML? How much deeper will your understanding of accessibility be? How much better will you be at JavaScript? Just think of it like that. Set aside a couple hours a week dedicated to practice, which is exactly what I've done. And I am floored by the progress that I've made, not just in my own ability to write CSS in particular as a front-end developer. It's deepened my understanding of accessibility. I'm obviously thrilled to see my GitHub profile growing again, because at one point it was like fireworks. It was just practically on fire. I was so busy during my freelancing days committing to GitHub, and I'm starting to regain that momentum again. I talk about this all the time. I am so pleased with how much better I am at writing CSS. And the fact that I start so many new projects, almost a new project a week at this point, maybe a new project every 2 weeks or so, week to 2 weeks. And I have found myself in this iterative process by starting so many new projects where I am just constantly, I've created a feedback system, a feedback loop where I'm able to just constantly iterate my own process and my own system for how I write CSS. And that's really exciting after 12 years. And honestly, when I started YouTube, I was very much in a place where I was like, I'm too old. I've been doing this for too long. I'm tired. I don't really think that I want to learn anything new anymore. And that could not have been further from the truth. This is exactly what I needed to like kind of shake my own life up and shake my professional life up in particular and start to really like connect with my own skills. And I could not be more pleased with what I've just the sort of self-discovery that I've had over the last year. So this is my way of this is my way of telling you like, hey, just set aside a few hours a week and see what happens a year from now. See how you feel about your own abilities and if it's deepened your understanding of these core foundational skills. Like, I mean, HTML, CSS, these are the things that the browser renders naturally. The browser shows other things. You can look at a PDF and you can look at a JPEG. So you can look at other things in the browser. But programming wise, and yes, I know HTML and CSS are not programming languages, but let's just, for the sake of example, let's just call it programming. Programming wise, these are the three core technologies that all browsers render natively. You don't need a compiler. You don't need Node. You don't need NPM. You don't need any of that stuff. All you need is index.html, style.css, script.js. You don't even have to use those names. Well, use index.html. That's going to be helpful. But you don't even need index. You could use home, you could use default, you can use whatever you want. My point is, try it. See how it goes. So there's that. No One is here. No One is our newest mod. Welcome, No One. We're happy to have you. May City is here. It could be city or county. I'm going to go with city unless you correct me. Hello, welcome. We are happy to have you. I recognize the picture, but of course this is a username, not a display name. So forgive me, I don't remember what your display name was, but I recognize your picture. So welcome back. We are happy to have you. Yes, please share this channel with others interested in front-end development. I was thinking this morning, this is the last thing I want to talk about because I actually have a point. I was thinking this morning about how I was absolutely certain that it would only take me about a year to grow this channel, get monetized, and actually start making money on YouTube. No, that didn't happen. It's been about 15 months. Not even close. I mean, I have over 1,000 subscribers. I'm not even close to being monetized. So the last couple of weeks, I've just been like, okay, Angela, what's plan B? What is plan B? How are you going to make money in 2026? Because it's not going to be from AdSense. So what's plan B? And I've also been very clear about the fact, and so I should also say that realization is not impacting me moving forward on YouTube. I'm still going to be here every weekend streaming. I'm still going to be doing project videos. I'm still going to be doing all of these things because I really believe in them and I love doing them and I love doing this on the weekends. So that is absolutely not changing. I'm just accepting the fact that it's going to take much longer than I thought it would. I don't know how long it's going to take. It takes as long as it takes. Okay, so knowing that, accepting that, what's the plan B? I've said from the beginning, I don't want to make courses. I mean, I actually throw up in my mouth a little bit at the thought of making courses. There are so many courses out there. There are so many people already making courses and doing a really, really good job making courses. But I also believe that people get stuck in course and tutorial hell, and that project-based learning is the right way to do this. A course or a tutorial introduces you to an idea. It gets you introduced and familiar with the syntax, but what you really need is not another course. You need a project. So there's that. I'm not anti-framework. I understand why organizations use frameworks. I know why they're important. They add a level of consistency to the projects, and I totally get that. I personally don't use them, and I want people to understand the basics. So I don't want to go out and like build my own framework, but I want to build something that could be useful. So I've been thinking about this for a couple of weeks, and I've come to the conclusion that what I would like to do is build like a UI kit, right? We know we've all seen UI kits. Let's just Google this, because I'm definitely not the first person to come up with this idea. Let's just Google UI kit. And there's literally something called, oh, this is Get UI Kit. So lots of people make UI kits. UI kit is a lightweight and modular front-end framework for developing fast and powerful web interfaces. I don't know if I want to do anything quite this looks extensive, but I mean, it looks cool, right? So if you're going to do a heading and you need help, and I also don't want to, I don't want to create something that is just adding classes, like utility classes to markup. But I also do feel like I need to acknowledge that there are some people like me who want to have a deeper understanding of CSS. People like me who enjoy solving quirky little CSS problems, right? And then there are people who just need something that works and then want to move and need to like move on and get their project built, right? Not everybody has a desire to do the deep dive that I'm doing, as much as I would like them to have the same desire. So I was thinking that I think I would like to try and build like my own version of a UI kit, not a full-blown framework or library, but something that models what I'm already doing, because I feel like I've come up with such a great this iterative process on my own, where I define the root variables, I define, the box sizing. I have a way that I like to do the body. I have my own kind of reset that I think works really, really well. Especially with SVGs. Like the day that I looked up SVGs on MDN and realized that they're by default inline, it explained every wrestling match I've ever had with an SVG ever. And then once I started just right out of the gate setting them as display block and figuring out that I need to get those inline styles out of there and set a width and a height, it just changed everything. Same with buttons. Looking up, the day I looked up buttons on MDN and I realized that they were display inline block by default, setting all of my anchor elements to display inline block. I don't know. I just feel like I've come up with so many good global kind of reset values and good and like solid ways to start a project. I was like, I think what I want to do is make my own UI kit. So I'm going to start working on that, because I don't know how long it's going to take to make money on YouTube. And I would do just about anything to not have to get a job again. Not that I even could get a job in this economy, because it's so wildly competitive and difficult to get a tech job right now. It seems crazy to say that with this much experience, but I don't even think I could. Even if I could, I don't want to. The thought of getting a job right now and going back and working on somebody else's tasks, I can't do it. I just can't do it. I would rather go work at Costco. I I would rather apply for a job at Target. I just can't do it. So I'm looking for ways to. There's got to be other ways to monetize between YouTube and digital assets and not making courses because I really don't want to make courses either. So why am I telling you this? I don't know. Maybe because Christian Code says the Angela CSS reset, I'd use it. I mean, I just see it being something that is very clean and simple and really, really well documented. Because I think, Christian, you're actually a great example because I've been watching your daily videos and you do talk about CSS, but I see you really leaning into the JavaScript. And I've said from the beginning that I think there are two types of front end developers. And I think that you also aspire to be more full stack, not specifically front end, but you want to have a good understanding of front end. But for the sake of this conversation, I'm going to say that you are a front end developer. I think there are two types of front end developers. I think there's people like me who really lean into the UI side of things clearly. And then I think there are people like you who find the JavaScript and maybe the object oriented programming side of front end development more interesting. And isn't it amazing that Node came along and turned JavaScript into an object-oriented programming language for the most part, right? That's how I interpret that. So front-end developers now can be object-oriented programmers, but so many of them do not want to, they hate CSS. They don't want to be on the UI side of things. That's why Tailwind and Bootstrap are so stinking popular. It's because this is what I believe. We have these hardcore JavaScript object-oriented programmers who don't want to learn how to do the UI side of things. They don't like it. They don't enjoy it. They just want a Tailwind or a Bootstrap. And I look at Tailwind and Bootstrap and I just see something that is bloated. And then if everybody's using those tools, everything starts to look the same, right? So what if I just made a nice little reset with a few utility classes that didn't make every website look the same, but just gave people who want to do a bit more vanilla CSS, have a bit more understanding of CSS, still want to write for the most part their own CSS, but just need a little lift. They just need a little boost. They just need a little leg up. You just need like a little leg up, right? To get started in writing your CSS. So that's how I'm thinking of this reset. So yeah, I'm kind of excited about it actually. I'm going to start working on that. So, because I want to work on my own tasks. That's what I want to do. I want to work on my own tasks. So, okay, here we go. Well, shall we get started? Thanks for listening. I worry sometimes that if I do too much talking, people are going to be like, yeah, I'm not here for that. And I decided to stop worrying about that because this is my channel and I can talk about whatever I want. And if I want to talk about the things that I'm working on, I think that I will. So there's that. And thank you, Malik. Your channel, your rules. I don't know why I worry about that. It's not like I've ever once had somebody come into the chat and say, oh my God, you talk too much. So, oh, and I do want to just a quick heads up for next weekend. I am going to be here next weekend. It's Thanksgiving this week, so which is like a federal holiday. So I expect that my US based people may not be here. Nobody ever has to explain to me, of course, why they're not here. But I will be here because there are people in other countries who maybe probably likely don't celebrate Thanksgiving. So I'm going to be here. But next weekend, my plan is I'm hoping we can finish the CSS today. Next weekend, we're going to build our slider and we're going to wire up our video. I explained yesterday why I am not going to do a media file because I'm feeling, excuse me, pretty salty about a copyright strike that I got on music that I licensed. So I am not going to use an audio file here. So we're going to do the more JavaScripty type stuff next week. We're also going to work on cleaning up this search. We'll do some QA. That's the plan for Saturday next weekend. My plan for Sunday next weekend is we are going to do another deployment day. And what I want to do is in the excuse me, the last video that I did on deployment was setting up a new droplet on DigitalOcean from scratch. So a LAMP stack, Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. I want to show you how you can add a domain to an existing droplet doing something called a virtual host, and we're also going to do it as a subdomain. So I am still kind of working out the details of how I want to present that, but I want to make sure that every project ends with a dedicated deployment day where everything gets deployed, whether it's to a brand new domain, a subdomain, a directory, something like that. I'm also going to use FileZilla. So for my Windows users out there who are not able to rsync on a Windows machine without like jumping through some hoops, which I know Malik figured out how to do, but I am not equipped to like explain it to people. I'm going to use FileZilla, which honestly, I have reacquainted myself recently with FileZilla, and I'm just like, God, for a static website, it's just such a beautiful, simple solution. You can still SSH in as your sudo user using FileZilla. It's amazing. So I'm going to be using FileZilla probably a lot more often in the deployment videos, but every project moving forward is going to have a dedicated deployment video because that's the part of the front end process, right? We build it, we deploy it. What's the point of building it otherwise? So there's that. That's what we have to look forward to next weekend. So, and no one says explore Shade CN. It is for React, but it's just like vanilla for React. Like every developer can change the style, but it is for React. Never even heard of it. Let's see here. Shade CN. The foundation for your design system. A set of beautifully designed components that you can customize, extend, and build on. Start here, then make your own open source, open code. Let me see here. Okay, so Shade CN UI is a set of beautifully designed, accessible components and a code distribution platform. Works with your favorite frameworks and AI models, open source, open code. This is not a component library. It is how you build your component library. You know how most traditional component libraries work. You install a package from NPM, import the components, and use them in your app. This approach works well when you need to customize a component to fit your design system or require one that isn't included in the library. I mean, yeah, I would be willing to try this. I wouldn't do this in a stream because I have a vanilla reputation to uphold, but I would definitely be willing to explore this for one of my personal projects. I mean, I just have such a hard time. I just have such a hard time with this. Hmm. This way I just this makes me feel what's the word I'm looking for? A Luddite. A person, I don't think this is exactly me, but it makes me feel like this. A person opposed to new technology or ways of working. Historical, a member of any of the bands of English workers who destroyed machinery, especially in cotton and woolen mills that they believed was threatening their jobs. Actually, the historical definition kind of fits me. No, it doesn't. Okay, so I see things like this, and this would be very hard for me. It would be very hard for me to develop like this. With how much I love doing vanilla, this I'm imagining a world where I built websites using component libraries like this and basically all JavaScript. It just goes to show how different front end development is compared to when I started learning in 2009, 2010. Stuff like this was unimaginable. So forget about building a website using Bootstrap or Tailwind where you're basically adding utility classes to markup. This is now the most common way that people build websites is with these component libraries and JavaScript. I can't even express in words how much this blows my mind that this is modern front end development. I'm having a hard time with it, and I don't I don't even know how to explain why I'm having such a hard time with it. But when I see stuff like this, I'm just like, I don't want to do this. Um, ShadeCN uses Tailwind CSS classes, so it's integrated with Tailwind. So yeah, this is hard for me. I don't I don't know how I don't know why this is so hard for me, but this is hard for me to look at this and accept that this is the modern way of doing front end development. So I don't know. I'm going to have to sort through some of these feelings a little bit, aren't I? But at the same time, I want to be very clear that I'm not be I don't want to give people the impression. I don't want to be rude to people. I want to acknowledge that this is modern front end development, and I don't want to be rude to people who spend their time getting good at this because you enjoy it, you need a job, list all the reasons. It's just the modern way of working, but I'm having a hard time with it. I really like the vanilla way of doing things. I'm clinging tightly to it, clearly. But I also would like to think that I add value to this space by saying, hey, don't forget that actually the browser doesn't read those components. Everything gets compiled into ES6. All the CSS gets compiled into vanilla CSS. And I do feel like I'm still adding value by saying, hey, actually there are still things here that you need to learn how to do or that you should know how to do. So I hope that makes sense. Um, and I really don't want people to think that I'm being rude. I really don't want people to think that. I just have a hard time with it. So, all right. Well, Angela, let's do some actual work, shall we? I noticed something in our mobile navigation that we should fix quickly. We added these little circles yesterday, so let's just go ahead and take those out. That should be pretty quick. So I'm pretty sure it's just, we just forgot about this pseudo element right here. So I think the best way to deal with this is to just say display none. There we go. And then let's just let's work on our footer. Let's work on our footer. And which, by the way, I really like how this looks. I really like this. So I was very pleased with how this came out yesterday. I like our hover on this button. Yeah. So next we're going to do, this is our social media. We'll do this little band here. And I'm going to use blue. Here's the Instagram, here's the navigation. Recent comments. Oh, wait a second here. Social nav. I'm going to just collapse some of these so it's easier to read. So we've got GitHub, YouTube, Pinterest. We're missing one here. Pinterest, Instagram, X. We're missing X. No, wait a second. I think we just have this in the wrong place. There we go. Okay. Social. Social navigation. So I'm going to put the background on the nav container, and then we'll let the UL sort of be like the wrap. So I bet we could just add the wrap class. So we'll just say social, background, color, we'll go with blue. Hang on here. Oh, actually, this is inside of a wrap already, isn't it? Hang on. Can we... We have to hang on, we got to collapse some of these things. They're getting in my way. Yeah, we're already inside a wrap. So here's items. Here's our nav. Here's our Instagram. The Instagram is also going to be full width. So I think the wrap should be inside of the items container. So we're going to have to change that CSS, which is just fine. And then I think we can just take this out. So our grid for these items is right here. So now it's going to be items wrap. There we go. Now we are full width. And we are good with the wrap on the UL because we just went ahead and added that class. So, yay. And Silence 24 Hours is saying, hey, what are you building? We are building a one-page website using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So we're a few weeks into the project, so we're working on the footer today. And we should have this wrapped up and deployed next weekend. Welcome to the channel, and thank you for subscribing. And no one is asking, what's your opinion on the trend of many websites now using 3D objects and shaders on their home pages? I mean, I guess my opinion is, if they have data that says people spend time on the home page and they're, clicking call to action buttons and, they're meeting their business needs, then my opinion is go ahead and do it. I think probably people build fancy home pages because they want to use new technology and use updated design trends and things like that. I would like to think that people are paying attention to their analytics and they understand how users look at home pages, things like that. So I don't really have an opinion on it. Here's the thing about like freelancing and working with clients. They want fancy home pages. They want nice fancy home pages. And going to a client and saying, well, do you have data that supports that people even look at home pages or even going to like read the home page? Or it's a quick way to like lose a job. So if somebody is paying you to build a fancy home page, go ahead and do it. There isn't anything wrong with that. I think it's a good idea to look at your analytics and understand how users use websites. And you have really good insight into this now, right? Because you've read one Steve Krug book and presumably you'll take a look at the second one. You have a better understanding of how users navigate websites. And it's good to point that out to clients, but most clients want nice fancy home pages. And if they literally have their checkbooks out and they're ready to pay you to do it, go ahead and do it. That's what I think. Get paid. There is nothing wrong with that. So you're definitely not hurting anybody, right? You're just building a nice fancy homepage for somebody. And Silence says, wow, it looks really nice. Is this a portfolio website? Well, I think this could be a portfolio website. This is probably a good time to remind people that I used to be a freelancer and a contractor, and I used to buy pre-made mock-ups, Photoshop mock-ups. Hang on. Come on. Oh, are we already at full? Okay. I used to buy pre-made Photoshop mock-ups, and I would use these on my freelancing projects because I'm a very average designer. I needed help with layout. I needed ideas. And then this would really help me in my freelancing career when I was building websites from scratch, lots of WordPress websites and templates. And so I haven't done this kind of freelancing and contracting in many years, but I have dozens, maybe hundreds at this point of these mockups. So this is what we do on the weekend. We grab a mockup, we spend maybe 3 or 4 weeks building it out just on the weekends. It's a way for me to practice my vanilla HTML, CSS, and JavaScript skills, which I was talking earlier in the stream. I get about 10 or 12 of these built in a year, and it just really helps me get better at CSS and JavaScript and accessibility. And we just do it for fun. We just do it to practice. And I decided to start streaming it because I wanted to show other developers, hey, if you want to be better at CSS or JavaScript or have a deeper understanding of accessibility, set aside a couple hours a week and just practice. Grab some mockups and just practice. That's what I do, and that's what I wanted to show people that they could do. You don't need Node. You don't need a compiler. You don't need NPM, Yarn. You don't need any of that stuff. You can just do native HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, the stuff that browsers already read by default. So there's that. And Rehan Anwar is here. Hello, welcome. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us. Okay, I'm going to get back to the build. If you would like to have your messages read out loud to the class, go ahead and put them in the chat. Please do not have hurt feelings if I don't respond right away. I'm going to dig in. I'm going to dig in for a little bit of focus time. Okay. So let's go ahead and flexbox our social nav, the UL. Social nav. And we'll just say display flex. Flex flow, row, no wrap. And then we'll say justify content. Space between, so we get that first item and that last item right up against the edges. Oops. And then we'll say align items, center, and I'm not going to give it a gap. Whoops, I'm not going to give it a gap because we need to put, where are you? We need to put like a spacer in between, right? We need to put a spacer. So I think the best way to do that is with a pseudo element. Or honestly, this would just be a border, wouldn't it? Yeah, it would. This would just be a border. Let's also make sure that our social nav anchor elements are white. And then let's make sure that our social nav, social icon, so we'll just say social icon. We'll say did we decide that these were fill or stroke? I think they're fill. And we'll just say white. There we go. And then let's also make sure that our SVGs, well, really the social icons our display inline block, and we should be able to get those lined up. Let's also, on the social nav, let's take off all that list item stuff the browser does by default. So we'll say padding 0, margin 0, list Style type is none. There we go. And then let's just make our social icon class display inline block. And I think we'll be able to get those things lined up. I don't know. Yay. There we go. And I'm pretty sure we can do vertical align middle. Look at that. How do you not love CSS? Okay. Oh, and we changed the margin up here. It needs to be margin 0 auto to get that div centered. And then, okay, so our SVGs are actually, okay, let's revisit our social icon here. That's why I put a container around this SVG. So we want this. Now, to me, this entire thing is the tap target. However, so this entire thing is going to be hot. However, I do still want the icon itself to be 48 by 48, which is the minimum tap target for accessibility. So let's do that. So we'll say width 3 rems, height 3 rems, background color white, and then let's change this to blue. And then we'll want to say border radius 50%. And then we do need to also give this some padding so we can shrink down this SVG a little bit. So let's do padding. If we do 0.5 rems, then we would want to do a width of 2 rems and a height of 2 rems on the SVG. Or let's make it a little smaller here. So if we do 0.75, that would be 1.5, and then these would also be 1.5. Yeah, I think that's okay. And then let's give this some padding. So I'm just going to say 1 rem on the top and bottom, 0 on the left and right. There we go. And then our social icon, let's just give this a little bit of margin on the left, right. Maybe 1 rem. There we go. So what's the thing? Let's actually see here what's hot. Just like that. So here's our LIs right here. We may want to, they're really spaced far apart. We have one, we may want to do grid. Grid might be the better choice for this because it's going to give everything an equal width without having to define a width. And then all we have to do is put a border on the right. Yeah, should we try that? That might be the better way to go. So I'm going to keep align items. Let's just comment this out. So let's see if display grid is better. So interesting to me how I'm understanding now the reasons why you would choose grid over flex. So this would be 5 FR. No, this would be, wait a second, repeat 1 5 1 FR. Do I need to have a comma? Now these are all equal, and we can just say on the parent container, which is the li, so social nav li, we should just be able to say text align center. There we go. And then we'll say border left, right on the right. 1 pixel solid. Just like that. And then we'll do a last of type and take that off. So on social nav li last of type. I think you could use last child or last of type. We'll say border right none. There we go. What do we think? Now, do we need to make sure that this has a hover? I think we do. So what's our hover? What's going to happen on hover? Well, I think the thing that happens on hover, well, first of all, the tap target is the space from the icon to the word, and I think that's plenty big. Even on the smallest one, that's plenty big. So this whole thing is hot here. So I don't think we need to do anything to the word, but I think what we should do is just change the icon. So here's our icon. We have a background of white, but our fill is blue, right? Yeah. So let's just invert those. But let's, if we're going to invert the background color to blue, let's make sure that we at least still have a border around this. So we'll say border, 2 pixels, solid, white. So we'll do social icon. Well, what are we hovering on here? We're hovering on the anchor element. So we're hovering on the social nav A. So social nav A, focus. Focus hover active. So what happens when we hover on the anchor? We're not changing the color of the text. We are triggering the social icon. Social icon. And we're changing the background color to blue. So let's copy this now. Then when we hover on the social icon, we are also changing, when we hover on the social nav anchor element, we are also changing the social icon SVG. And what are we changing? We're changing the fill from blue to white. So fill. Whoops. And something happened to our spacing here. We have to fix that. But this is the right effect, right? Oh, the spacing changed because of the border. That's why. But that's the effect that we want. So let's add a transition now. So we're going to do transition. And what are we transitioning here? The background color. "300 milliseconds, ease in, out." And then we're going to transition the fill. 300 milliseconds, ease in, out. You can use any timing or any transition that you like. That's just what I like. So you can see there that that is a nice transition. Okay, so our border, I feel like we had this problem. Where else did we have this problem? Right up here. Okay, so that happened because we added a border and we did not account for it in our padding. So the padding is 0.75 rems times 2 is 1.5 rems because we have 0.75 on the left, 0.75 on the right. That is 1.5. Then we have a width for our SVG of 1.5. 1.5 plus 1.5 is 3 rems. That's the ideal size. I introduced a 2-pixel border, so that's why that looks like that. So the way we need to do this is we're going to calc. So really it's 2 pixels on the left, 2 pixels on the right, so 4. So we're going to say 0.75 rems minus 4 pixels. That's our padding. Oh, maybe it's 2. Maybe it is 2. There we go. Now we're back in the center. So that's how we need to fix this. I didn't think of that yesterday. So let's also fix this. I think what I did yesterday to fix that is let's see here. This is what I did yesterday. So what I wanted was 0.5, but it's kind of a little off kilter here. So now I'm going to do 0.5 rems minus 1.5 pixels because that's my border. And there we go. We're nice and centered again. Ugh. You know what is really annoying about Chrome is which thing gets the focus when I'm trying to zoom. It just really annoys me. So yeah, that's centered, right? That looks pretty good. I love that. That's nice and smooth. We have a good transition. We have a nice hover. Beautiful. Okay, now how is this supposed to look on mobile? I don't know. How would I know? What, I gotta think of everything? What's happening here? Why isn't that going into mobile? Did we not do media queries for this? Oh, did I? Hang on, I didn't change the... We changed the wrap, so we just have to account for that. Right here. What do I got to do? Everything around here? Jesus. Okay. Yeah, I'm good with the decision to have this be Flex Start. I think that was the right call. But you know what we forgot to do yesterday is we forgot to put our dashed border here in between. So let's go ahead and do that too. Yeah, we'll go ahead and do that too. And then we'll figure out how this is supposed to look on mobile. I do like this design though. I choose these designs and I'll admit I'm pretty lukewarm about some of these things. I'm like, it's another one-page website. And then I build them and I'm like, "Gull, I really like it. It looks cool. I love it." So, yeah. So, okay, hang on one second. And let's see here. Silence 24 Hours says, I'm also very average at designing website blueprints, so I constantly check for new designs in Dribble and Pinterest. That is an excellent move. Pinterest, I don't check Dribble so much. I have in the past. I think Pinterest is an excellent source for looking for mock-ups, and I love blueprints, as you say. Yeah, I think that's a terrific place to look for stuff like that. So, I buy a lot of my, there's lots of places to do this. Um, there's lots of places to do this, but I do get a fair number of my HTML, or not even HTML, just like UI templates. And I tend to do Photoshop. I don't use Photoshop anymore. I use Affinity, which reads Photoshop files. But yeah, this is definitely where I tend to get a lot of my mockups. But Pinterest is also an excellent source for stuff like that. So I think that's a very smart move. And Rehan says, "Hi, I'm a week into this channel and I was curious, what's the story behind the dog in your website?" Well, this little pumpkin right here is my dog, Heidi. She's my little Sheltie. Heidi girl, do you want to come here and say hello? Heidi, come here. Hang on. Hang on. I'll introduce you to her. Hang on. Hi, come here. Come here. Here's Heidi. Here she is. Hello. She's not into this at all. How are you doing? She says, okay. Here she is. So here's the story. We're just, there you go. Okay, you can go. Yes, you made an appearance. Hang on, she wants a snack. She wants a snack. I have to go take care of the Sheltie. One moment. So there she is. That's my little Heidi. She's about to turn 10. Come here. Come here. she's a, whoops, hello, hang on. Okay, I think we're okay now. Having some microphone issues. There we go. So that's it. No real story. She's about to turn 10. She's going to be 10 in December. Her birthday is December 23rd. Yeah, and she's my little pumpkin. I love her. So her name is Heidi. She's my third Sheltie. My first Sheltie's name was Risky Business. My second Sheltie's name was Ryan. And okay, good. The mic sounds okay. So, and yeah, I love dogs. I like having a dog. I've had a dog pretty much my entire adult life since, when did I get Risky? I mean, Risky was born in 95, and he was originally my sister's dog, and then she moved and I sort of inherited him, and ever since I've always had a Sheltie. So I think I've gone like maybe in my entire adult life since, well, when did I get him? I mean, it was the late 90s, maybe 97, 98 I got Risky. And then I got Ryan in 2004, and then Risky went to Doggy Heaven in 2010. Ryan went to Doggy Heaven in 2015. Yeah, 2015. Oh, I guess it was about a year I was without a dog because I didn't get Heidi until the spring of 2016 when I moved back to Minnesota from San Diego. So I went for about a year without a dog. That was the only time in my entire life since like 1997 or 1998 that I was without a dog. So, and I do have to admit, you know, Heidi is 10 years old. She is going to go to Doggy Heaven sometime in the next, 4 or 5 years probably. And I might be dog free for several years after that because I would really like to do some traveling. But I honestly hate leaving or going anywhere and leaving her. Like, I can board her. She could stay with my parents. She could go to a kennel. There's lots of great places where she could go, but I just hate being apart from her. I'm so hopelessly codependent on my dog. And yeah, so I think that when she goes to Doggy Heaven, I'm going to be dog free maybe for a couple of years so I could travel and just not worry about stuff like that. So we'll see. I don't know. For now, I just want to enjoy the time that we have left together. So probably another, she's pretty healthy. So like another good 4 or 5 years. So that's it. That's the story. I don't know if it's much of a story. Might be a little boring. So, yeah. So there we go. Okay. Where are we? Let's figure out. Let's get this Instagram grid built. No, we're gonna put in the dashes. Focus, Angela. Focus. Also, this is supposed to be white. I'm just noticing this now. So I think we need to change the background color for the footer to white. Where's our footer? Yeah, perfect. That's perfect. Do we need a little more space here around this load more button? I think we do. So let's put some padding on this container, which is, well, we've got the hero and we've got the grid. I'm thinking that we put some padding on the grid, but I think we may also need some additional padding or margin on this button container. So we already have margin on the grid. We must have this gray color on the, yeah, on the body class. That's why that's working. So I think we can just, I think we could just like increase this margin and that would be fine. Yeah. And then let's, what about our button container? Let's just add a little bit of margin here to push that down. Yeah. What do we think? I think there's more in the mock-up, but I'm fine with this. And then let's make sure that we have a little more padding on the footer. So maybe 4 rems on the top and bottom. Yeah, that looks good. What's the margin situation on these H3s? Or shall I say, what's the padding situation on these H3s? Boy, I added a lot of padding to those H3s. Did I do that because I was trying to add space to this? Although that padding keeps these things apart from each other, so I'm gonna leave it. Okay, so let's put our borders in between these items. So these are the posts. So if we add a border, oh, the gap is, okay, we don't have a gap here. So here's our wrap, here's our items, here's our item, and then here's our posts. Okay. So we just need a little margin and padding on the bottom of these posts and we can add a border. So this is item post line 875. Wait a second. Item. But the post also has display flex. Okay. So we'll say padding 0 on the top, 0 on the left and right, 1 rem on the bottom, margin 0 on the top, 0 on the left and right, 1 rem on the bottom, and then border bottom 2 pixel dashed, and then gray. And then let's make sure, I don't think we need this much padding because this is a paragraph. This is a paragraph because, well, this is a paragraph, so it already has margin. So I don't think we need this much padding. Yeah. And then let's make sure the last of type doesn't have a border. So we'll say item, post, last of type, border bottom, none. There we go. Okay, now we can do this. So these are comments. So this is line 915. We're going to do pretty much the same thing. So we'll say margin 0, 0, 1 rem, border bottom 2 pixels, dashed gray. And then we want to say item, comment, last of type, border bottom, none. There we go. We do need a little bit of padding here. Well, really, if we just put a little margin on the image, that's going to push it down. So if we just put a little bit of margin on this figure, which we already have, 0, 0, 1 rem. And we can do this just in the media query, although I don't know if it would really hurt anything. Oh, we already have margin here. Let's see here. 861. So we're putting margin by default on any figures inside of an item container. And we didn't do anything different to this for the desktop, but we took the margin off. So really, if we just take off this, we'll have that margin there, and we don't need a media query. There we go. Yeah, I think that's fine. I didn't love how this looked yesterday. But now looking at it today, I'm not sure it matters because I think most people are just going to see it on mobile. I think they're going to see it like this, right? And we do have a lot of room here. So we're just going to have to tighten up padding when we do a QA. So I'm not going to worry about that right now. Let's get this Instagram grid together, and then we'll work on some of these mobile styles. But overall, I really like this, although this is supposed to be uppercase with our heading text. So let's do that really quick. We can take this out. We're not using flex. So this would be Playfair. And we'll do font weight. We'll do 400 for now. See how it goes. And then let's say text transform, uppercase, letter spacing, 1 pixel. Yeah, that looks okay. Oh, and this is getting, wait a second. Focus, active, hover. Was it just me, or did we see an underline there for a split second? So let's do a font weight of 600 and letter spacing of 2 pixels. And I think this looks nice. What about, I mean, do we want to do a font style? Okay, there's the fancy font. There's the fancy font with italic. Right there. I was wondering about that because I was like, didn't we choose the exact font that they were using, but we weren't getting all this fanciness? It wasn't italic. I'm torn between wanting to follow the mock-up and really not liking this because it's just not my style, but I also want to follow the mock-up. So I guess let's just go with it. That means we need to do it to this too. Who am I? What do I know? What do I know? What do I know? Okay, we'll do this too. The tertiary heading on the items, line 836. Okay, give me just 1 minute. I gotta go close the window. Hang on. All right. Barking dogs. There we go. I don't know if it's my style, but I'm gonna go with it because it does follow the mock-up, right? And it kind of solves the mystery because I was wondering like why I feel like I just remember thinking like, okay, I chose the font that was in the mock-up, so why doesn't the text look like the mock-up? Now we know. Okay, so let's go ahead and style our Instagram grid. And we do have a button that's positioned over top. That's fine. We'll go ahead and do that. So we've got 6 images, and I think I just put in 6 random images. So here's our Instagram. And I think this for sure can be grid, right? Repeat 6 1FR. And then let's go ahead and style our figures. And this will be width 100%, height, auto, aspect ratio 1 for a square. And then we'll say Instagram image width 100%, height 100%, object fit cover. There we go. I am thinking that we don't need the border on this. This is the one place where we're not going to use the border. So Instagram, whoops, figure, was it before or after? Before. Before, and I'm just going to say display none. Whoops. There we go. Perfect. Now we have a follow me button. So our follow me, wait a second, follow me. Oh, that's the button. I'm looking at this to top, this little back to top. So there's follow me, and then we have top, and then we have an ID of top. So in order to do smooth scrolling on our HTML element, I think we just say scroll behavior smooth. So this is pretty little. We'll style it, but if we, oh, you can't see. Hang on. But we have this little, we're going to style this. If you click that, scroll right back up to the top. So, okay, so we'll get that styled. We're so close. We're so close. We're definitely going to get the rest of this styled today. So, and Go Elmo Go says, I am done coding for today. Timer shows 3 hours. Very nice. First React project is nearly done. Desktop and mobile structures are done. Menu button is done. Now I just have to fix the little position differences. Well done. I think you've only been working on React for like a couple of weeks. I would love to see it. I mean, you don't have to show it to the whole class, but I would love to see it personally. So, and I just am so admiring. I admire people like Malik in particular who are like, I'm here to learn everything. And not only do you say it, but you do it. So well done, my friend. Yes, fantastic. I would love to see it when you're done and ready to deploy. So do you want to tell the rest of us like what it is? What did you build? I would like to know. Okay. So let's collapse some of these things again. So here's our Instagram. Okay, and inside, so here is our, well, let's deal with this button first. So inside our Instagram container, we have this follow me button, or it's really a link. So it's not a button. An anchor element is appropriate. I am going to put position relative on the parent container. And then let's give this a class of follow me. So we're going to position that button relative to the parent container, which is called Instagram. So follow me. I'm going to say position absolute. I want it to be in the middle, and the easiest way to do that is top 50%, left 50%, and then transform, translate negative 50% on the x-axis, negative 50% on the y-axis, and that should put it right in the middle of the container. So let's see where it is here. So here it is. You can kind of see it highlighted there, right in the middle. And then we're going to have to give this a little bit of z-index. So we'll do z-index of 1. And then on the parent, I'll just say z-index 0. It's kind of like a baseline. One moment. And Malik says, yeah, I can send it to you once I finish and push it. It is just the news homepage challenge from Front End Mentor. Since I am learning, I decided to follow something with a design to it already. I think that's a smart move because it's one thing to learn a completely new technology. It's another thing to also have to make a bunch of design decisions on top of that, right? So following something where you had kind of that design and UI already laid out for you, I think that was a very smart move. So then you could just focus on the requirements and learning the new technology, right? I think that was a very good idea. So okay, so now it's hard to see, but it is there. It is there. So let's go ahead and style that. And what is that supposed to look like? I know that you can do a linear gradient with lines like that. I forgot how to do that. So I don't know if I'm going to do that because I don't remember how to do it. So where's our button styles? So should we just go ahead and do a new set of button styles? Kind of feel like we should. So here's our default button styles. Here's our button styles lines, which we never put the lines in, ironically. So we can call this button, what would this be? Button, how about border? We'll just call it button with a border. So this would be class follow me, which we do need, but also button for styles, and then we'll give it border. Gosh darn it. CSS linear gradient lines diagonal. You can use keywords like to top left, to bottom right, to top right, or to bottom left to define the diagonal direction. Got it? Oh, so you don't have to put in a percentage, you just say the names. Yeah, we could do 45 degrees white. Gradient to create a sharp, oh, see, you do have to put in percentages. To create a sharp, distinct diagonal line rather than a smooth gradient, you can use multiple color stops with the same position. This creates an abrupt color change, effectively forming a line. So in this example, D6 color is given a very narrow range from 49.6% to 50.4%. Oh, okay. How to draw a perfect diagonal with a linear gradient. Stripes in CSS. Let's look at CSS tricks. Stripes are pretty easy to do in CSS these days. CSS gradients via the background image property really got our back. I thought I'd document some variations. Okay. Normal colored diagonal stripes. Diagonal stripes are easy to pull off. Background, repeating linear gradient, 45 degrees. So I would want it to be like 1 pixel. Rather than the very last color stop being 100% or nothing, which means 100% is a fixed value, it's a fixed value. Beyond that, it just kind of starts over. This is how I think of it zoomed in. If you make the background a regular linear gradient, then make half the stripes totally transparent using repeating linear gradient on the top. So I think that I want transparent and negative 45 degrees. Okay, so let's try this. So we'll say button border, and we're just going to do it as a we'll do it as a background color. Or do we want to do it with a pseudo element? I think we're going to run into the same thing that we ran into last weekend, which is that you can't put something, but if it's white, it wouldn't matter. Let's just do it as a background on the button, and we'll see if we need to add extra markup. So we'll say background. So it's background image. Linear gradient. Oh, it needs to be repeating linear gradient. Repeating linear repeating linear gradient. I'm going to say negative 45 degrees, so it goes in the other direction, comma. And then I'm going to say which is which color? I don't know which is which color here. I don't understand which is which. Rather than the very last color stop being, well, what's the first color? So this must be the 606, and then this is the 465. So if I wanted to be transparent and the white to be 1 pixel. I don't know. We'll try transparent, white, 1 pixel. So transparent, transparent, white, 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 white. I don't know. I can't really see anything. Ugh. I'm going to take off this and this. I'm actually going to take off this. I don't see any. We're going to cheat. This isn't helping me, is it? To create a sharp, distinct diagonal line rather than a smooth gradient, you can use multiple color stops with the same position. This creates an abrupt color change, effectively forming a line. So this is the diagonal color. In this example, D6 is given a very narrow range from 49.6 to 50.4, creating a visible, sharp diagonal line. You can adjust the angle and color stop positions to control the line's appearance and thickness. Okay, so with this theory, let's just copy this in and see what happens, but also we may need to give it a little bit of padding here. We'll just give it some juicy padding and see what happens. Okay, so there's our line. Got it. So if we do repeating linear gradient, wouldn't we want to take out the color stops? How to draw a perfect diagonal with the linear gradient. Diagonal lines in CSS with repeating linear gradient. Yeah, this is what I want. Background image repeating linear gradient 45 degrees. So this is a 2 pixel. Okay, I think I understand this now. So you're alternating the start and the stop, and then the start and the stop. Got it. This makes sense to me. So let's do this, and we can play with this. We're learning together. Whoops. So I want this to be white. And I want this to be negative 45 degrees. So I want it to lean in the opposite direction. And I want this to be one pixel. And then this can go from 11 to 15. So this would be 1 pixel wide and then 4 pixels of space. Beautiful. That's what I wanted. So now, let's see here. So now I think we need to put, this is obviously way too much padding, but it perfectly illustrates what I wanted it to do. I do think that we need to put follow me inside of a div, and then we have to style the div so we can get the white. So for this, I do still want to call it button. So this is the button with the border. And then we're going to have to just reverse engineer some things here, right? Because our button styles by default have, well, I want the padding. I don't want the border. We've already changed the background. So I'm just going to say border none. Oh, and we still have to add our class. There we go. Oh, beautiful. That's perfect. That's what I wanted. We do have to put this in a div though, because we need an extra container. So now we have a div around that. So here's our button border. So this would be the button border div. And I'm going to change the padding on this. So I just want the padding to be like 0.5 rems. And I want the div to be this right here. So it's going to be a pretty big button, but I think this is a big button, right? So I think that's okay. And then this will have a background color of blue. And a color of white. Or should it be white? Should the background be white? I guess the background should be white. Yeah. And then I suppose on hover, what do we want to do on hover? Let's just transition the background on hover. Well, yeah, we'll transition the background on button, border, focus, hover, active, and we are transitioning what's happening on this div. So we'll say background color, I guess blue, right? Because we transitioned to white, so we can change the background to blue. And we just need to add the transition here. So we're transitioning the background color. Oops. 300 milliseconds, ease in, out. You can use any transition you want. That's just the one that I like. There we go. Yeah, I think that works. I do really like this. All right, let's get our back to top. Here's our anchor element with the back to top link. And we'll give this a class. We'll just say back, top. And we'll just say bottom, footer. Here's the back top. So where is this? So this is definitely, where's my mouse? So this is also absolutely positioned. So we can absolutely position this against the copyright statement container. So we'll say copyright statement, position relative, and we'll give this a z index of 0, just as kind of a baseline. And then our back to top is going to be position absolute. We're going to say, so I'm actually going to say bottom 100%. So that pushes it 100% to the top of the parent container, just on the other side. So we're pushing it up from the bottom. That is the absolute, in my opinion, easiest way to do that. And I want it to be in the middle, so I'm going to say left 50%. So that's 50% on the x-axis. But then we want to pull it back half the width of the item itself. So we'll say transform, translate x on the x-axis minus 50%. That should put it right in the middle. You can't see it, but it's right there. It's right there. So if I click on it, we go back to the top. So let's style that now. So the best way to style that, it's like a little half circle. The best way to style that is, so it's an anchor element, which means it's already display inline block. So we could definitely change it to display block if we want to, but I don't think it matters because we can add margin and padding as if it were a display block element, and it's being absolutely positioned, which means it's not inline, so it doesn't really matter. So you can add display block if you want to, but we don't need to. It doesn't really matter. But I am going to give this a width of 3 rems and a height of 3 rems. That gives us our accessible tap target. We'll give it a background color of white. And then we'll give it a color of, well, it's probably already blue, right? So I don't think we need to give it a color. And then the easiest way to deal with like a half circle is, I think we should just do border top left radius 50%, border top right radius 50%. And then let's make sure that we've got a Z index of 1, just to make sure we've got that stacking order. And we're close. We're close. We're probably going to end up pulling this down like 50%. Yeah. So we might actually want to do, well, let's get our arrow centered. Clearly it's not centered in there. And we can just say text align center. That's all we have to do here is say text align center and it'll center it, right? I think so. There we go. And we'll shift this little doodad around as well. So, because we do have this in its own div, in its own little icon there. So since we pushed this up from the bottom 100%, we can actually pull this back 50% also. So let's, instead of translate X, let's do 50%, negative 50% on the X and Y axis. And I think that'll pull that down a little bit. Wrong way, plus 50% probably. There. Now we have that nice little half circle. So this is, so this entire thing is hot here, and I think that that's just fine. So you could tap anywhere in here. So now let's rotate. Let's rotate, and let's also, we could technically just increase the font size, right? Since this is an HTML element, it should follow the rules of font sizing. So I think we could just do font size 1 point, I don't know if this is going to be too big, 1.25 rems. That makes it a little bigger. Perfect. And then it's an anchor element, so it's getting all of the it's getting the hover, focus hover active. We may want to make this whole thing a circle, all border radius, so the hover active focus really does transition like these do, right? That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea. So let's do this. We'll just give the whole thing border radius. And then we can transition the whole thing. So back top, focus. Oops. Hover. Active. We'll transition the background color to blue. We'll transition the color to white. And we'll make sure that that text decoration, we'll just say text decoration color Well, probably we could just remove the, should we just remove the text decoration altogether? I don't know if it's still going to get triggered though on hover. We'll find out. We'll just take it off on the parent. Let's see what happens. Yeah, there we go. It's definitely not in the middle though, is it? So we need to get it centered in there. Let's add a transition. So we'll transition the background color. 300 milliseconds. Ease in, out. Oh, and let's do all, because we're really transitioning the color and the background color. So we can just do all. You can see that the timing is a little off there. Now they're transitioning at the same time. Okay, so here's our element. Here's our icon. Oh, the icon is not, let's also make the icon the same size as the element, and it should center itself on the X and Y axis. So that's the top icon div. So we just need to give it a width and a height. So we'll just say top icon, width 3 rems, height 3 rems, because divs are block level elements, so you can just give them, gosh darn it. Is it because of the line height? Line height. There we go, line height. That's a nice little trick sometimes. Yeah, I mean, that looks, we might want to just make that a little bit bigger too, right? Our font size, so maybe our font size is 2 rems. That's kind of an old trick that I haven't done in a long time, using line height to get something centered in the right spot. It's a little bit of a hack. There. So I mean, technically it's centered. It looks a little wonky, but with line height, a little line height. So line height is 1.25. And then I changed the, increase the font size to 2 rems. Oh, we have to flip it anyways, so we'll do that here too. So line height, do whatever works, right? And then font size, 2 rems. Okay, and then we need to rotate this. So we'll do, what is it? Scale, is it transition? Don't tell me. Is it transform or is it just scale? Hang on. What is it? Is it transform? Yeah, is it transform? Rotate? And I think we just want it to be 90 degrees. So it's negative 90 degrees. There we go. What do we think? I love it. Should it be up a little bit more though? Yeah, should we position this up a little bit more? I'm fine saying that this is centered. This is centered vertically and horizontally. But I do feel like in its non-active state, the little arrows should be up a little bit more. If we take that line height off, if we adjust this, you're really going to see that it's a circle in order to pull that up. So I'm kind of erring on the side of just leaving it how it is. I'm erring on the side of this. I kind of like it. So, and Emilio is here. Welcome, Emilio. Yes, I hope your recovery is going well. It sounds like you are feeling a lot better and you are fully recovered. Good. Oof, that was rough. Appendicitis, right? Is that what you said it was? Appendicitis? You were in the hospital for like a week and a half? And Malik likes that it is peeking out at the bottom. I just really want it to be centered on hover. So, and I'm good with that. I like those styles. Yeah. I like it. Let's get back to 100%. I like this little Instagram grid. I think this looks really cute and colorful, and I like our social media icons here. So I think the last thing we need to do here is just get this copyright statement centered, right? Yeah, that's all we need to do. Whoops. And we'll go ahead and put in a date as well, and then we'll call it a day. So this is our copyright statement for the paragraph tag. So on the copyright statement parent, I think I'm just going to put text align center, which really shouldn't have any impact on anything else. And then we just need to push that down a little bit. So what do we got going on here? So we have a lot of padding. I think that our copyright statement also needs some padding, and that's just going to push it down a bit. So we'll put padding on the top. Let's see here. I think this should go here. And then padding can go here. So maybe 2 rems on the top. Just like that. And then we can do a tiny little bit of JavaScript to get our dynamic date in there. So we have a date ID. Here's our script.js. I'll say const date equals document get element by ID, and then we'll say const year equals new date get full year, and then we'll do a function copyright, and we'll say if date, just making sure that element exists on the page. If date, then date, isn't it text content equals year? Pretty sure that's it, right? There we go. let's just give this a tiny bit more padding. Yeah, I like it. So we do still need to work out some mobile styles. I'm fine doing that next weekend because I don't think next Saturday. So what do we really need to do next Saturday? Let's make like a little QA list here. So we'll do QA.md. There. Stop. QA. So what do we need to do? We need to style search for mobile. Refine all mobile styles. Implement slider. Implement video. Mobile styles for social nav. Mobile styles for Instagram. Whoops. Oh yeah, I guess we do need to save this here. Okay, so here's our beginning QA for next week. Just so we don't forget. And then this would be JS. This would also be JS. All right, let's get this committed. Styles for footer. Whoops. Git commit. Styles for footer. Git push. Origin main. All right. Yes. All right, this was a good weekend. I mean, I don't know, this felt like a messy weekend, but it also felt like not a bad weekend. We basically have our styles for the desktop done. I don't think that implementing our mobile styles for the rest of this footer is going to be a big deal at all. We learned how to do a linear gradient background lines, so that's good. I've been wanting to, I mean, it's incredibly lazy that I waited until now to learn how to do that. We figured out how to implement this nice little nav here for social. Yeah, I think this looks really cute. I really like this. This is a cute little landing page. I didn't realize I was going to like this as much as I do. Yeah, I honestly think though that images are everything. Images really make boring designs like this come to life. I also wanted to, I know I brought this up yesterday. Let me find this. I want to find a way to add these colors as some sort of color treatment someplace as like a border or something. So I'm going to think about how I want to do that. Like maybe we could add them to the cards, do like some lines, something like that. Yeah, but I really like how this footer looks. I think this looks kind of cool. I like our little back to top button. I like all of it. So this was a fun one. So everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Thank you for hanging out with me this weekend. Yeah. Have a great rest of your week wherever you are. If you're in the US and you celebrate Thanksgiving, have a happy Thanksgiving. I got all of, I'm going to my parents' house for Thanksgiving, and I was assigned green bean casserole, 7-layer taco dip, apple, and a blueberry pie. So I have everything except for the pies. I have to go get the pies this week. I'm holding off. I'm trying to wait until as close to Thanksgiving or as close to Thursday as possible to get the pies. So I don't have pies just sitting in my apartment. So I'm going to go get the pies this week. I think I have like one more trip to Target that I'm going to make. Because with Black Friday right around the corner, I'm trying to stock up on groceries so I don't have to go back to the store for at least a couple of weeks because I just cannot deal with all the shopping. So, yeah. So everybody have a great week ahead. Have a happy Thanksgiving if you celebrate. Hopefully I'll see you guys next weekend. We're going to wrap this project up. We're going to finish up our styles and our slider and our media player on Saturday, and then Sunday's going to be a deployment day. I'm looking forward to that. We're going to do a subdomain as a virtual host on a droplet where we already have DNS set up. So I'm going to show you how to add a new domain to an existing droplet so you don't have to generate a new droplet every time you want to deploy a new domain. So there's that. Okay, have a great rest of your week wherever you are, and I will see you next weekend. Bye-bye.